So what's going on, guys? We're back with this 2002 Dodge Neon, and the problem with this Dodge is that it has a crazy instrument cluster. It has a speedometer that's going pretty crazy right now. Alright, now one of the things I noticed with the speedometer is that it only acts crazy when the car's cold or when the temperature outside is cold. So this video was supposed to be done last week, but last week the temperatures here in California were like 110, 115 degrees. It was super hot. It's fucking hot here, and in Texas, it's fucking flooding. I think it has something to do with that fucking eclipse. I don't know. You tell me. But anyways, we're back with this 2002. The speedometer's going crazy. The check engine light was on, but now it's not on. So I was gonna wait a little bit longer for the light to come back on, but you know what? I have it here. The temperature's kind of cold. I got it to act up, so I'm gonna show you guys the speedometer, and so you guys can see how it acts, how it bounces all around, and the car starts shifting kind of funny. So a couple things that can happen with the temperature being cold and the car acting up and not acting up when it's hot. It points me to an electrical problem with the car. That could be a sensor or it could be a wiring issue. So right now what I'm going to do is I'm going to test the cluster and make sure that the cluster is good, and then we'll go from there. I'm also going to show you how to pull codes from this instrument cluster without a scanner. So if you don't have a scanner but you have a Dodge, a Chrysler, then you should be able to do this test from certain years only. So let's go ahead and show you how to do that instrument cluster test. Alright, so here we are at the instrument cluster for the Dodge Neon. Now the gauge that's going crazy is this little fucker right here. There's a reset button on the cluster. That's for your trip A and trip B to reset the miles. What you need to do is hold this button down, and at the same time you turn the key to the on position where all the lights come on. So I'm going to hold this button with my right hand and turn the key with my left hand, and then as soon as I turn the key on, I'm going to let go of the button, and you should see the instrument cluster run a self-test on itself. And if all the gauges work, we're going to see that happening. So let's go ahead and do that. There you have it. All the gauges activated from 0 to 120, cold to hot, and empty to full, and all the lights came on the dash. So if you suspect a problem with anything in your dash, then you can go ahead and do this test. It's pretty easy. It's just a self-test of the instrument cluster. Alright, another test you can do right here to get codes. If you don't have a scanner, you can also get codes from the instrument cluster. If you look right here, I'm going to cycle the key 3 times, and after the 3rd time we should get codes coming up right here, and it's going to read one after the other, and then at the end it's going to say done. So let's go ahead and cycle the key. 1, 2, 3, 4 times. Okay, 4 times. And then we have a P0700. It checks for another one, and there isn't any. So all we have is a P0700, and then it says done. So with a P0700, that to me is a transmission fault. Now, what with the transmission is wrong, we don't know that yet. But we know that there's something up with the transmission. It could be a sensor, or it could be something, maybe wiring. I know these Dodges have some problems with the wiring that runs under the radiator support. I think Scanner Danner has a video out on this. But we're going to go ahead and check with the scanner, pull the codes and view some data, and let's see if we can get anything else with the scanner in hand. So let's go do that. Alright, I got my scanner hooked up. Now we just need to identify the vehicle. This is a 2002 Dodge Neon. I always like to go automatic. I mention that all the time. Alright, do you want to load this car? Yes. Engine, automatic transmission with AC. Okay, so here we go. Codes. Now one of the things is, if you notice, I went over to the engine. I didn't go to the transmission. But I just want to show you guys different ways to access this. So right here, P0700, transmission fault present. Okay, so there's a fault with the transmission. That is the same code that we got out of the dash. If we go to the transmission, I think we can get more specific information from there. So let's hit that and check over that transmission control module and see what's stored in there. Codes. So this is a transmission control module, and there's no fault codes. Okay, that's weird. Let's look at some data. What I'm actually gonna do here is I'm gonna go test drive it, and I want to look at here. I just want to look at some of the pits. So I want input RPM, I want I saw output RPM here. Output. Actually, let's look at guided component tests. US domestic 2.0 we've been seeing. Body electrical, cruise control, door lock, exterior horn, power, wind safe power control. What I want to know is where this speedometer gets the signal from. I know the transmission control module is looking for inputs. I don't know. Fucking shit, I don't know what I'm saying. I'm gonna go drive this. That's what I'm trying to say. Alright, so I deselected all the pits and I'm just gonna choose, for now, I'm just gonna choose RPM, the input and the output. And I wanna graph these and I wanna see what it looks like as I'm driving down the road. So, I didn't do that. Shit. Okay, deselect everything. Just input and output RPM. And that's going to be my input and output speed sensors, which I believe that's the problem with this car. It's one of these sensors going out. Here's my engine RPM, and I think the engine RPM will be, that's the input, will be the same as the input RPM. They should correlate with one another. So I have to look at the output for this one. I'm going to drive, hopefully this little setup that I have here does not fall down so you guys can get it, and let's see what happens. So let's go on a test drive. Alright, so this is reverse right now. I'm backing out of my driveway and let's see what happens. I'm actually going to put the windows up so I can reduce a little bit of noise, and hopefully I don't run any of these kids over because they are the future. Looks like my setup is working. If this tripod falls, then I'm gonna be fucking pissed. Oh, hear that clunk? Alright, and I think you saw us. Whoa. Look at that. Look at the output. Right now I'm just driving steadily. If you could see my gauge, I don't want to pull it off. I don't want to pull you guys off the scanner, but the gauge right here is acting crazy. I'm actually gonna go on a big street right now and I'm gonna give it some gas. I mean, I don't know if you guys can pick it up on camera, but the shifting is, the shifting is not right on this car. So here we go. Alright, the gauge is going crazy. You can hear the RPMs going pretty high. I'm at 3,500 RPM and I feel like I'm in second gear. Car's still not shifting, the RPMs keep going up. And I'm gonna let loose right there. I don't want to fuck anything up. There you go. The car just shifted. The car shifted. The RPM went down. Now the car's back to normal. All right. Now the reason it went back to normal is because I had the car running for about 5 minutes and the car got warm. And that's what I'm talking to you guys about. The car gets warm and then the car runs fine. If I leave it overnight, early in the morning, it's gonna start acting up. Alright, so we're back home. This is the data that we collected. And I think as soon as we took off, I saw something funny with the shifting here. So let me just find the frame where this was acting up. Okay, so just looking at this data, you can see the RPM steadily increasing. And you can see the input RPM steadily increasing also. But the output RPM, look at this shit right here. What's that? So I'll zoom in a little more. And just look at how the output RPM looks compared to the other ones. More than anything, the input. Not so much worried about the engine RPM because that's engine RPM. But input RPM for the transmission and output. So this would be the input speed sensor over here. And this would be the output speed sensor over here on the left. This signal looks erratic. I mean, this is just a scanner. And you have to understand that before the data gets to the scanner, it has to go through the PCM, and then the PCM brings it out to the scanner. Alright, now this is also wireless, this is Bluetooth. So this data right here that you see, that's processed. If I had my scope hooked up to this sensor, the input and the output, more than anything the output, I think we could catch something really cool on that. So I'm going to let the car cool down right now, and then I'm going to go hook up to the output RPM speed sensor, which we were looking at right here. Under transmission we have output speed sensor. Alright, right here we have component information, and this tells us what sensor it is, where it is. We have a dark blue with black wire and a light green with white. And one of them is TCM ground, the other one is output speed signal. So I'm worried about this light green with white wire, number 2. I'm going to back probe across the 2 wires, and then I'm going to get a signal and we're going to see what it looks like. You guys can pause it here if you want to read this information. Here, read the tech notes. Factory technicians state that the output speed sensor have high failure rate. That right there says a lot. We're going to go to the output speed sensor, get a signal, and then we're going to do some wiring checks, circuit integrity. This is all scanner danner stuff. So let's go do this. Okay, so this is what we're looking at right here. And there's this sensor right here. Focus. And there's this sensor right here. Remember, this is how we're looking at it. Front of the engine, back of the engine, which is front of the tranny, and then this will be the back of the tranny. So with these 2 sensors looking the same, I think this would be the input sensor, this would be the output sensor. So input to the transaxle, output to the transaxle. Remember, this is a front wheel drive. If you guys want to get technical, this is a transaxle, not a transmission.